After 4 consecutive defeats in all competitions for Mansfield Town, Nigel Clough and Andy Garner have taken to the training ground. Are they thinking about stepping into the breach for Ollie Clark and Stephen Quinn? We'll find out when Saturday comes. Trying to figure out what's been going wrong with our defence and conceding from set pieces has been like battling a charity shop jigsaw. Yes, all the pieces are there, but not necessarily for the right jigsaw. Hopefully Nigel Clough and Andy Garner and their intervention on the training ground this week, if you've watched the iFollow videos, will solve the problem. But can Mansfield Town get back to winning ways as they head for Walsall on Saturday? The under-23s put in their case for a starting place on Monday night, beating Sunderland under-23s in the Premier League Cup. But did anybody catch the on-watching Nigel Clough and his team's eye? Or will it be predictable changes? We'll talk all about that over the next 45 minutes. Full disclosure though, myself, Nathan and Clive aren't live tonight. It's currently 10:15 on Wednesday morning, where we're all slotting this in before a busy rest of the week. We will be back live though next week, but for now sit back and enjoy 3 Stags fans rambling about the ongoing twists and turns at the One Call Stadium on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Hello and welcome to the Mansfield Matters podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. We should have been doing an hour's worth of show, but it's going to be 45 minutes because I spent 15 minutes, full disclosure, not having my webcam turned on, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. There you go. I've beaten Nathan and Clive to it, who I'm sure would have taken great delight in highlighting that. I would usually say good evening to you, but it's actually good morning. How are we all? Are we well today?
Morning, yeah, I'm very well after the nice bit of amusement we've had pre-podcast. I was getting a bit concerned you're going to lose your discipline like Stags did.
I mean, I was planning on doing a Stephen Quinn and kicking the desk, but then I had a little look down and saw all the wooden structures and thought, that's going to hurt if I do that, so I'm not going to bother. But there you go. How are you this morning, Clive, over in sunny Edwinstowe? You've got a little new toy I can see in the corner of my eye.
Yes, I've invested in a microphone. I thought the world deserved to hear me in clarity. Such
a shame you're not talking into it, but there you go. We'll get there eventually. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. You need to perhaps be a little bit closer to it, but there you go. It's all good though. There we go. That's a bit better. There we go. Oh, I'll edit that. I should have said I'll edit that out. We should have done this before, but there you go. It's all good though. We are here to talk about Mansfield Town, Nate. Obviously, we didn't catch up with you on Sunday. Mr. Wilson was exchanged for you. We do have a bone to pick with you though, because it's your fault, isn't it? Tell us why.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I really thought this wouldn't apply this time, but we were given a kind gift from Paul Brown, of AWAS funeral directors, who treated myself and my family to hospitality for the match, which was fantastic. We had a great time, as always. They do a really good job in hospitality. Food was delicious, by the way. But the problem is, before that, we'd attended 10 games in hospitality on a Saturday. We'd lost 5 and drawn 5. So obviously the record wasn't great. But we thought, we're not paying for this one, so maybe it doesn't count. but it got worse, didn't it? So, yeah, it's now 6 defeats and 5 draws on a Saturday in hospitality. It's not good.
I think, Clive, there needs to be some sort of
Ban.
punishment, doesn't there?
It's like having somebody from the House of Lords with us, isn't it? I mean, come on, behave like a proper fan and be down with the rest of us and do battle with a sausage roll.
Absolutely, and I can tell you, it is a battle with those sausage rolls because they're getting soggier and soggier every week. If that's the only thing that I've got to complain about, though, that's great. As it is, it isn't nice because it's not been great on the pitch, has it, at the minute? We're now, on 4 consecutive defeats in all competitions. It's not going well. We're conceding from set pieces. We can't seem to find a settled rhythm. And it's got that bad that a shirtless Andy Garner and a shirtless Nigel Clough are now joining in training and seriously considering picking themselves for Saturday's game with the 2 suspensions.
Well, I mean, probably can't do much worse, can they? Let's be honest. To be honest, for me, I don't think it's quite panic stations. It's not the end of the world. Yes, it was frustrating, one that we lost on Saturday, and then the minor we ended up losing. But it's still early days, and you still compare to last season. I still think we're playing better, and we've got more points on the board than we did at this point last season. We are still looking good going forward, albeit I don't think we was quite as good on Saturday than we have been. I think this was the first game where I can quite comfortably, happily say that Harrogate deserved that win without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think it was one that would come out saying we deserved a point. So, and that was before the red card. So, but that's going to happen. We're not going to go out and win every game and outclass every team. It's far from it. So, we just need to work hard now on the training ground and right the wrongs. And was quite interested a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what game it was, who it was against, but Nigel Clough came out and said he was fuming that the whole game we hadn't committed a foul or anything like that to say that was going in too soft. Well, I think they made up for that, but in the wrong way.
Yeah, they certainly did, with red cards to captain Ollie Clark and to tenacious and experienced midfielder Stephen Quinn. Me, Clive, and Alan spoke about this a little bit on Sunday when we were out in the garden, the gazebo. I would have invited you around today, but I've got to get to work straight after this. So, the social niceties which we have. And Nathan, aren't you also supposedly sort of working at the moment as well? You're on phone duty, aren't you, if the phone rings?
Yeah, I've taken it. I've managed to somehow do a load of bookings this morning, and then I managed to get a dog walk in as well before getting on here. So I'm on it.
Productive.
But yeah, I'm on the phone.
Productive.
Yeah.
We were talking on Sunday, though, about who should come in to replace the 2. Who would your picks be? We sort of between us, I'm sure Clive will clarify that in a second. We were sort of saying the likes of Harry Charlesley, perhaps Tyree Sinclair. It could be his moment, which ties nicely into the under-23s game, which me and Clive will talk about in a minute. But who would your choices be to come into that starting lineup as we head for Walsall on Saturday afternoon, Nath?
I mean, there's probably a shout for Ryan Stirk as well. He could be dropped into Maris's place, and Maris could be moved further up the pitch where we know he can. Where he did very well for Cambridge, even though he has settled in it at the moment. That is an option, and I think that's trusted by Clough a little bit more. He featured more this season. Before obviously getting COVID, but obviously there's a question mark on how he's recovered from that. But I'd say he'd be in contention. But for me, Tyree Sinclair, I think he's got to be. I'd be really happy to see him in the team. That's for sure. It's just where do you put him? I think that's the issue. How do you move it around to maybe get the best out of him? Because I think obviously he's going to be more effective in an attacking position. So far, Charlesley for me is. He's played a couple of games. He hasn't done anything wrong, but he hasn't done anything to maybe say I should be starting. So I think he needs to be an option from the bench. But I still think we've got cover there. Obviously, it's a pain losing 2 players, but I think we've got adequate cover there to still do well. And I think a break for Quinn and a break for Clark isn't the end of the world in the grand scheme of things.
It's an interesting one. We'll delve more into the under-23s game later on, Clive, when we talk more about the younger players, the Coopers, etc., who impressed us. But talking there on the back of what Nathan said about Sinclair coming in, we said on Sunday that we wanted to have a look, didn't we, about how he'd play, where he'd play, and what he'd do. What I found interesting was that the under-23s went with a more of a 4-3-3. Sinclair, Bowery, and Kane up top. Sinclair had a fairly decent-ish game, to be fair. Got himself on the score sheet. Some decent set pieces in there as well. I'm a little bit disappointed there that we didn't sort of match the formation that we did on Saturday, in that defeat at home to Harrogate, and see Sinclair in that attacking wide left position. But again, maybe Clough's thinking and sort of said, look, I'd like you to play with a front three on Monday night in the under-23s, because that's what I'm thinking of going with on Saturday, which would please us as well. So on that basis, did Sinclair do enough for you on Monday night to warrant that starting place?
I think the lad deserves a chance. I mean, I worry that if he doesn't get a proper chance, he's going to have to be loaned out, because his career's gone into a bit of a cul-de-sac otherwise. I think the reality is we're going to start with Hawkins if he's available and fit. And it's a question of how Hawkins self-configures the forward line. How do you play with Hawkins? And does Sinclair have a good place alongside Hawkins? I personally think he does. I think what he brings is a degree of speed and agility, and he also buys lots of free kicks, and he likes to take free kicks. So in that respect, he could work quite well. And then it doesn't actually mess around too much with the existing midfield. So I do see him as a forward, but I think what I'm really saying, it has to be a forward line of three forwards, so it has to be 4-3-3. You don't like that. I do.
No, I do like that, actually. I do like that. I think we play well in it. I just liked the actual variety of the 4-2, because it should have helped us defensively. But if I was to choose my top sort of three formations, 4-3-3 would undoubtedly be number one.
Yeah, I think it's a simplistic approach, and I'm always guilty of being a little bit simple. And I don't pretend to fully understand the virtues of the diamond. I'm too old for all this. But the point is, you play to players' strengths. And at the moment, if all you're doing is dropping someone in as a late replacement, then they're very unlikely to be playing in the position they feel themselves strongest to be in. So I think we have to give Sinclair a chance. And I think there's never been a more opportune moment to do that, given the suspensions and non-availabilities.
Clive mentioned something quite interesting in there, Nathan, about if Sinclair doesn't get this opportunity now, then when is he going to get it? And I think I think he's got a very valid point.
Well, I mean, coming off the back of last season, he did get quite a bit of game time, obviously because he was really needed then. Our squad was wasn't the greatest in depth, so we had to call upon the youngsters. But the thing is, he didn't do anything wrong. In fact, in some ways, he was the one that helped us turn our fortunes around. So based off coming off that, you'd have hoped to see him feature a little bit more this season. He did pretty well in the preseason friendlies when he was playing. So he's not really done anything wrong. I think he just needs his break, where those players that you'd probably say are more experienced or more trusted ahead of him because they've had league experience. For them to drop out of the team and him come in, and then he's got to try and keep it. Well, like this is probably the moment, isn't it? Aside from the fact that it's midfielders and you probably want him more, in a forward position, but when you've got two players missing, surely Sinclair's going to be the choice for one of those.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, you look at where he can sit and where he can play, and definitely on the left-hand side of that midfield, Clive, I think that's definitely something where he can play, and then pushing up to that forward line. We've just got to make sure that we get that balance right, to make sure that the continuity down that left-hand side, where we like to play the majority of our football with McLaughlin and Quinn, whoever comes in for Quinn. We've just got to make sure that if that is Sinclair, that they're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I'm thinking beyond the immediate, though. When we've got all of our midfielders back and playing as well as they did last season, where do you put Sinclair in that midfield? He has to play more of a striker role. At the moment, I think you can be excused for sticking him wherever there's a hole, but that's not good for the player.
No, and especially for a young player like him who's, eager to impress and keen to develop. We'll talk more about the other ones that, are knocking on the door with the under-23s game later on, because obviously we went to watch that and had a really good look at those young players. We're going to talk a little bit about Nathan Bishop as well later on. Final thoughts though, Nath, from Saturday and looking ahead to this weekend, of course. We tried to tinker with it. I think if we'd have stayed at 11v11, I think we'd have probably got back into the game sooner rather than later. No doubt those, red cards did cost us. Nigel Clough says that he's not going to be appealing them because he doesn't have faith in the appeal system, which is a nice little dig at the FA, which I thought. He says that it looks like Ollie Clarke will only be a 1-game ban, and Stephen Quinn obviously more of a 3-game ban, but they're still awaiting confirmation on that. In an ideal situation, it would be great if Ollie Clarke's was a 1-game ban, but I think we've got to perhaps prepare ourselves for the worst, haven't we?
Well, yeah, that's it. Until you get confirmation, you don't want to be relying on that. But I don't think that we're looking to that far ahead anyway. It's on to the next game. And obviously, we know we're going to be missing 2 players, two starting players, for the next match. So it doesn't matter at this point what happens after that. We need to focus on Walsall because that's the next game that we need to bounce back from. So let's just wait and see with that. But I kind of disagree with the point that if we had 11 on the pitch, we'd have got back into that game. I don't think we would have. I thought, unfortunately, whether we have an off day or what, I think Harrogate were for a lot of that game head and shoulders above us. So we just have to take that one on the chin and move on.
Maybe I'm trying to be overly positive in my ever-growing old age. Let's hear from another man who tries to be positive after the games, though. It is the Stags boss, Nigel Clough. He's been speaking to I Follow Stags this week. This is what he had to say on the 2 sending offs of Ollie Clarke and Stephen Quinn, who will, of course, both be missing for this weekend's trip to Walsall.
We considered appealing Ollie Clarke's. Because we thought it was a little bit harsh, but we don't have a great deal of faith in the appeals process, unless it's absolutely clear. It's very difficult to overturn decisions. I think Ollie Clarke will only be 1, and I think Stephen Quinn will probably be 3, but we await confirmation on that. We've got players who featured last night in the under-23. He's got a game under the belt, and it gives an opportunity with 2 players being suspended. It gives a great opportunity for another couple of people to come in. All the good things we're doing are overshadowed at the moment by our defending from set plays. We've now conceded 6 goals at home in the last 2 home games, 4 of them from set plays, 3 directly and 1 second phase. So it doesn't take a genius to work out what we need to improve upon, despite working on them and so on. It's very much an individual thing within a team that you have to do your job from set plays, and then it's a collective after that. And we're not doing either at the moment, which is what's costing us the points. Well, you keep working on it and you keep stressing to them the importance, and then eventually, obviously, you have to change individuals if they're not doing the jobs. But there's so many good things within the performance, and we're just not dealing with the corners and set plays that are coming in. It also highlights the importance of set plays because we scored from 1. They scored 2 direct and 1 second phase, so all 4 goals on Saturday came from dead ball situations. And Harrogate are the sort of team that maybe don't create an awful lot from open play, but they capitalise on your mistakes, and they're very, very dangerous from set plays. We're playing well, we are creating chances, and I think they have this thing called expected goals now or something like that, from your performances and the quality of the chances you created, and I think we're pretty much topping that. So balls in the box, final third entries, all things like that, we're well up there. But it's just dealing with these set plays that we have to do better that's costing us games. I don't think we're that far off, honestly. If it feels that close sometimes, you can taste it. To get off to such a good start with our 2 wins and then a draw that should have been a win. And you look at the last 3 games that we've played, we haven't been outplayed in any of them. And we could easily argue a case for getting points from all of them, yet with 3 defeats in the league on the spin, which hurts. You've got to then, even when you're not sort of winning games, we've got to get draws. And try and sort of keep that board ticking along and keep the confidence going. It's defeats which crush confidence.
It's Nigel Clough speaking to I Follow Stags. You can hear more from the Stags boss by heading to mansfieldtown.net/I Follow. He's speaking to Radio Nottingham on there. He's got another interview there. And you can see his silky skills in training as well, with him and Andy Garner both joining in and having a little look at that one. He says in there, boys, that he doesn't think that we're far off the boil, far off getting what we want to get. What do you think, Nathan? Are we far away, or do you think that Nigel Clough has pretty much got the nail on the head with that one?
No, I agree. We're not that far away. Like I said, going forward, we're creating good chances, and you want hopefully just someone to get a bit of confidence or get a bit of luck and stick a couple more away. But you wouldn't have to score as many if you didn't give away so many easy, soft, simple, silly goals. A couple have been referee decisions that haven't helped us, obviously, but that happens in football at our level. But some of them are just terrible. It's basically terrible defending. It's simple as that. So if you're going to concede 3 at home, to win a game, you've got to score 4. So you're making your job a lot harder.
Yeah, we are making it a lot harder for ourselves, Clive. And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, weren't we, in terms of would you take a game now where we defend more and, try not to, go all out attack? Because I think we are leaving ourselves a little bit exposed and we are making it hard for ourselves because we're having to go and score 3 or 4 goals a game. Would you sacrifice the 90 minutes to try and, solidify that was a really bad bell ring because it was out of the way. Solidify that back 4 a little bit and tighten things up at the back, or do you just sort of want to carry on as we're doing, which for me is a little bit of a wing and a prayer at times?
Yeah, reluctant as I am to say I'd sooner we win 1-0 than 5-3. I suppose it's a needs must situation. We have to plug the hole at the back first, and from that, the midfield then has the confidence to drive forward in a way that they've been hesitant to do so. But we need to score goals, and it's all right in spouting stats. I mean, some of them are very interesting stats, no doubt. But as my old man used to say, until you stick the bladder in the onion bag, it doesn't matter a jot. And we need to score goals. So I don't think it's as simple as saying let's seal up the back end. We've got to stretch the game in both directions, and we've recruited players with the talent to score goals. We need to see that coming into fruition now. I think it'll all come. I have very little pessimism about the whole situation. I'm disappointed, of course, like the rest of us, with recent games' outcomes. But Clough was right in saying that we weren't outplayed drastically, and with a little bit of a tailwind, we could have got something from the game. So there's a lot of would-haves and should-haves in there. The one thing I do disagree with Clough on, I think he was a bit disingenuous with his explanation as to why they weren't going to appeal the sending off. I think, like the rest of us, he's had a look at it and realised it was a genuine sending off. His initial reaction after the game was he thought that he wasn't the last line of defence. Well, he clearly was.
Yeah.
But he has a downer with the officials is full stop at the moment, and I think we've all seen some pretty ordinary and pretty awful refereeing and refereeing assistants' performances this season so far. So I can understand why they feel a bit down about it.
Yeah, it'd have been nice. It would have been nice, though. Sorry, were you going to?
I was going to say, what was the question again?
Do you know what? Even I can't remember. I'm just on the back of that point, though, Nathan, what Clive made there. I think sometimes, it's a common managerial trait, isn't it? They can come out and blame the officials, but I think he perhaps should have been a little bit more, putting people on the line, saying, look. Obviously, he's trying to protect his captain and what have you with saying about he's being the last man, but also perhaps he needs to just take a little look and sort of say, look, we're not defending well from set pieces, we're not getting there, we're not doing our jobs properly, and that's got to change. And maybe he needs to throw his players under the bus a little bit more, Nathan, in order to go on and to maybe get a bit of a reaction, because that's clearly what's needed right now. We need a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can do much more throwing. Obviously, we know what happened a few weeks ago with Elliot Hewitt. It certainly threw him a long way. I think it's got to be to the right characters. I think you can only do that to the people that can handle that sort of public criticism. So it depends. I think obviously the officials have been frustrating. I think the issue is for me on Saturday that the red cards weren't weren't disputable. I think they were red cards. I think there was other points in that match where the officials were getting things wrong, and I think that was a frustrating bit, which led to then, I think, the focus being on the red cards. Just that's where the anger spilled out to, and I think he said after the game about potential penalty shouts, which seem to have just been forgotten now, and most focus has been on the red cards, which were red cards. So I think that's where I think that there's just a lot of frustration there, as always is with referees at our level. And then you've just got the fact that we've performed badly defensively again, which is again just maybe just being focused on the refs a little bit too much, when actually regardless of those red cards, we still conceded from set pieces. So, and one of them was with 11 men. So we just, it's difficult because obviously we've missed out on key players in the transfer window. We've got who we've got now. We've just got to work hard to deal with it. And just to add on a little bit about what sort of Clive was saying about, what you asked Clive about, do we have to go more defensively to build back up? For me, one of the signs to say that we possibly do was on Saturday. We saw Gordon and McLaughlin getting forward a lot less than they have been doing. And is that a confidence issue of those players behind them? Are they now hanging back because they're worried about shipping goals? And then therefore it's having a detrimental effect going forward. So do we now, as a collective, have to defend better and focus more on that, and then build slowly going forward and work on it that way, like we did last year?
I certainly think it's worth looking at. I do feel, though, that we are swimming in a pool of negatives at the minute. So let's jump out and then jump back in where the water's a little bit clearer, Clive. And that comes by a Mansfield Town side that are capable of winning and are capable of keeping clean sheets. Step forward, Richard Cooper, legend, and the under-23s at the One Call Stadium on Monday night. Clive, Sunderland under-23s, the first opponents in the first of 6 group games in the Premier League under-23s Cup. 300 or so Stags fans there, including ourselves. What did you make of it?
I thought it was a very entertaining game, especially in the first half. We were magnificent going forward. And you'd expect Sunderland to put us to a real test, and there were no mugs in the Sunderland side, but we had the beating of them. I thought we were particularly strong in the back four, and Sinclair had a bit of a roving brief as well, which helped. But with the exception of Bowery, who seemed to me a little bit non-committed, and I'll apologise if he isn't, just the way he looked. Every player in the side was really good and on form and worth their place. I could criticise anybody in the side, including the keeper, who, let's remember, had a fairly painful experience in the Papa Luigi Cup. So I think, I'm really encouraged by having witnessed what I saw on Monday. Particularly impressed by Cooper. I thought he held his place really well. Stirk played well. I think we've all agreed that Stirk's probably destined to be a first-team regular. Charlesley was all right. But we scored 3 really good goals. And that's all you want from your team. Second half, we just didn't give him a chance. The goalkeeper only had 1, maybe 2 shots to save, and he did them well. And he seemed to be in command of his area. All things being equal, I thought it was a great game. In fact, some wag behind me said, why don't we play this 11 on Saturday? It's not as daft as it sounds, but obviously that won't happen. But
there's also a massive golfing class. Let's not underestimate that. I completely agree with you. I think George Cooper's a good young talent to keep an eye on. He was certainly impressive in pre-season as well. Needs some more senior football, and perhaps we'll get that as the season goes on. But he's in good hands under Richard Cooper and the staff there as well. But what interests me, Nath, really, when you look at the side on paper and you read the reports and you know who was playing, the phrase under 23s is very, very unfair, because it actually felt more like a reserve team, because all of those players that played in that starting 11, perhaps with the exception of George Cooper, I'm not entirely sure on his situation. I'm sure he'll maybe bit in between. But let's say at least 10 of those starting 11, Nath, are training with the first team on a daily basis with, 3 or 4 of them, and what you would actually class as first teamers, the likes of, Harry Charlesley, Tyree Sinclair, etc., George Shelby, the goalkeeper as well. So Ryan Burke, another one, Ryan Stirk. So in actual fact, the phrase under 23s is perhaps a little bit unfair, but it's nice to have a competitive reserve. I use the term loosely, but reserve competition, because Nigel Clough was watching, and none of those players would have done any harm, especially considering the situation they face ahead of this weekend's fixtures.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, when you look at the team, it was a very strong side. Even when you consider last year, like Jason Law obviously was a first teamer, Keaton Ward, and there's still a few players there that have featured more last season, and I do think will have a part to play this year. And I think it kind of, this is a new cup format thing which has been brought in this year. This Premier League Cup, obviously we're not knowing much about it, but it kind of goes to show what sort of that win that we did get against Salford, against Cam's team a few weeks ago to actually qualify for this group stage was actually quite a significant thing, because actually these games do offer us quite a lot, especially when you consider the timing of this one coming after some defeats, obviously now missing players. That's been that perfect little sort of carrot dangling for those players who went out there to say, actually, Gaffer needs players for Saturday. If I go out there and put in a performance and show him that I am capable, I might get caught for the first team, and that's what it should be about. That's what these games should be there for. It should be there for development, obviously, of course, to get people minutes. Yes, absolutely, but ultimately, those players need to want to progress to the next level, and that's to get into the into the senior squad. So and by the sounds of it, I didn't know we could even go, otherwise I probably would have gone along myself, but by the sounds of it, they've done themselves no harm at all.
Yeah, they certainly did themselves no harm. It was a very good display from the under-23s. Interesting to see James Perch sort of sat on the bench and sort of gaining a bit of coaching experience alongside Richard Cooper. That was quite nice to see him support the lads as well. There were a couple of others that were on watching. Jayden Charles, who's on loan at York at the moment, was in there and was watching some of the lads as well, which was nice to see. But in terms of performance, it was good for Shelby, because, like Clive said, he had a bit of a nightmare against Harrogate, one he wants to forget. Nice to see him keep a clean sheet. He's a lot better than what people gave him credit for after that Harrogate game. Maybe the emotions and disappointment taking over there a little bit. But certainly Stirk impressed me in the centre of that midfield. He'll be one that I'll be pushing for a place on Saturday, and probably will do so. Nice to see Charlesley get some minutes as well. Was a little bit quiet at times, but had a lot of energy and kept running. And then Tyree Sinclair had his usual game of showing the flair, showing what he can do. And also impressed with Keaton Ward as well, a little bit at centre-half, who had a little bit of a nightmare in the Harrogate game, because he was playing out of position against more senior players, but did very, very well. Be interesting to see how that team develops. The only disappointment for me is the fact that cup competition is only sort of once a month. We won't be able to go and see them at home again until January, when they play the remaining 2 home games. But let's add a little reserve league in there as well and keep that competitiveness going, because it is really, really beneficial, especially when there are places up for grabs and people knocking on the door. I have to agree with Clive as well in terms of Bowery, and I apologise if this isn't the case for him personally, but he did seem a little bit disinterested at times. In fact, the only really time, Clive, and you know this because you were there, that he seemed to sort of enjoy playing was the last 10 minutes when, guess where he went, Nath?
Centre back.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying that, am I, Clive, really?
No, he doesn't. He looks very comfortable in that position. Now, all right, it's not the level of competitor that we're going to get in League Two, but I thought he looked at home there. I'd really consider him to be a reserve centre back, and at the moment we've been having problems with centre back positions. He's worthy in the squad simply for that reason, in my opinion.
The problem is with that is I've seen the comment, but we've put in Barry there, which if he could go and do a job, but the minute he makes a mistake, automatically straight away everyone's going to be on him or on Clough as well to say, well, that's what you get for playing a striker centre back. So you can't win with that. And
the Stags fans will jump down the throat of anybody who makes a mistake. Look at what happened with the new boy on on Saturday. He had to hit the ground running with no real association with the club before. I think he managed to get 2 or maybe 1.5 training sessions in. You're not going to be fitting properly under those circumstances. He started off aggressively, and you could tell he was a little bit off pace, but he grew into the game, and in the second half he was pretty good. I'd have no hesitation in placing him on the team sheet for Saturday at Warsaw. Yeah. So going back to the under-23s, what was interesting to see the cameo performance of a young gentleman called Gale, who we'd recruited a couple of weeks ago quietly from Long Eaton as an under-23 player. I was quite impressed. His physique was pretty good. He was fit. He was eager. I'd like to see players like that. I mean, obviously they've brought him in for a reason. They've seen something in the lad, and it's testimony to the club's forward thinking as well. That they actually, apart from firefighting around the obvious problems we've got, they're looking forward, and I think he's an example of looking forward and getting young players in to develop.
Yeah, that certainly shows the good working relationship that the club have with other people as well. Ian Deacon, of course, a former Stags goalkeeper, the manager at Long Eaton United, and he sort of signposted young Gale onto them, and I'm sure we'll talk about him more in coming months. But time is against us now, so we're going to go from one goalkeeper recommending a striker to another goalkeeper who's trying to hit the ground running. He's yet to keep a clean sheet for the Stags, but he is pulling off a number of really good saves to keep Mansfield in the game. All that's missing from his game so far is that elusive clean sheet. It very nearly came at Colchester, which he talks about in this little clip, which we're going to hear now. His name is Nathan Bishop. He's on loan from Manchester United, and he's been speaking to I Follow Stags.
It's been tough going. We've had a really good group of teams. We've had good games.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that. Really crashing on me. That was really good. That's the second time that's happened today. I'm going to try it again. Here's Nathan Bishop.
It's been tough going. We've had a really good group of teams. We've had good games. It's been tough, and I think taking the first 2 games, Newport, Bristol, I think they were really exciting games, and we were in a really positive forward motion. I think we've been knocked back a bit with that, not getting the luck of the green at this point in time. But as I say, it's exciting, and we've got plenty more to come. I don't think I've stood out as if you could say, wow, he's been unbelievable, but as again, it's about learning the team, learning the system, playing games, and working our way in to hopefully be ready to push on and excel more. I think you have to be your harshest critic at times, and I think it's so important as well. But again, we'll get there, and as long as I'm pushing myself and we're pushing each other, that's the most important thing. Coming into this team, doing well, you meet the new lads, and it was I had a short pre-season. I had about a week to get to know everyone. So before the league came in, so that was probably the most positive thing, getting to know everyone and getting on good terms and a positive footstep with everyone at early doors. But in terms of improvement, I think, again, like Colchester, we could shut the game out so much better. I could shut the game out so much better. It shouldn't probably come to a penalty in the end, because I could probably do more time wasting, take a card, something like that. I think that's learning the game, and that's what I need to do more of. He come up to me after and he said, what was you doing in the build up to the penalty, where I decided to stand one side, and it was just something that I thought of and put together just to see if I could psych him out, sort of thing. But yeah, I hit my hand and I was unlucky, but that happens, and that's football. Listen, I can learn as much as I can learn about an individual that takes penalties, but other than that, there's no secret to it. It's just how I feel in the moment, how I'm going to back myself in the moment, and just go with what I believe in. First really games, we were playing good football, we were exciting, but sometimes it's not about playing good football, it's just about winning the game. And I think we did that in the first 2 league games. We won the game, and it didn't have to be exciting, it didn't have to be outstanding, it just had to be a case of winning football matches. And I think, we've been unlucky in the last 3 matches we've had decisions go against us, things like that, and we've had 2 red cards. It's been tough stuff, but we'll get there, and definitely on our way to getting 3 points again. There's so much to come. The individuals that are in this team, the team collectively, the manager, the coaching staff, everyone, they believe in one direction. I think it's so exciting what's left to come and finding our feet. But once you find your feet, you start running. So I think it's exciting.
Once you find your feet, you start running. Wise words from a young Stags goalkeeper there, Nathan Bishop, who's, of course, on loan from Manchester United. From one Nathan to another, though, you were listening to his comments there. He's a very, very enthusiastic young goalkeeper. And to be honest, when I listened to that for the first time this morning, Nathan, it was quite refreshing to hear that, he's got the enthusiasm there.
Yeah, I mean, It was the same on, obviously, got the man of the match on Saturday, and he came up into the hospitality afterwards to do a bit of an interview. And it was the same then, even sort of off the back of obviously a very disappointing afternoon. He's still a very positive, sort of still got a positive mindset. And I think I think he's a great keeper, and I do think there'll be more to come from him throughout the season. And I think once we get the whole relationship between him and the four in front of him, we should be stronger. But I don't think the issue necessarily lies with him. I think it is, unfortunately, ahead of him at the moment. And if we can fix that little bit that's going wrong there, then hopefully we'll have a sort of strong back five, including him. But I think he, for me, could be one of the most important signings throughout for this season, because we needed a strong goalkeeper in between the sticks, and touch wood, I think we have got it with him.
What I'm about to say now is by no means a criticism at all of anyone. It's just the situation we found ourselves in. And I said it during our pre-season, Clive, and that was I was concerned about him coming in late to the group because he'd stayed with Manchester United, of course, during pre-season to cover for goalkeepers returning from the Euros and things like that. I think... I'm not saying that it's to blame, but I certainly think that it's playing a little part in the minute, because like everyone else, it does take time to form relationships. It does take time to form bonds and understanding. And when you're playing games thick and fast like we have been doing, sometimes those errors can creep in. And I just hope that, I think we've been patient with him so far. Stags fans have been refreshingly patient with him as well. There's the odd comment here and there, but I do genuinely think that given time that a good real relationship can be formed between Bishop and a settled back four, and it will, solidify us a little bit more to tighten things up at the back. It's just a shame that we had to almost miss 3 weeks worth of time to allow that to happen because of the situation with him being in on loan.
Yeah, I don't think there's a great deal to worry about. I mean, apart from one fluffed goal kick, which unfortunately led to a goal at the second attempt in one game, he's done nothing wrong. He very nearly saved the penalty, which they shouldn't have had in the first place, down in Colchester.
Sorry to jump in on that. Refreshing also just to hear him sort of say, I should have done more there. I could have took a yellow card and time wasted. That's really brave thing to say, and not to sort of, go, well, we should have done this and that. He took onus on it, which I thought was quite refreshing.
Yeah, and I think he, with experience, would perhaps have played that last 5 minutes differently. But I wouldn't hold him responsible for that. There was faults in front of him that led to the ultimate problem. I've no anxiety about that. I know he started late, and that's never ideal. And I know it takes time to build that relationship with your back line. And it doesn't help when the back line disintegrates through all sorts of reasons and has to be replaced, changed and reshaped. But it'll come. And I think he commands quite well for a young player.
Yeah, he's a very vocal goalkeeper, which I certainly rate quite highly. What have you made of him, Nathan? Are you going to back him automatically because his name's Nathan, or do you think that he's come in and really made that number one spot his own?
I mean, he's obviously a legend for the superb first name he's got, but no, like Clive said, I don't think he's done anything particularly wrong so far. And even though he has come in late, probably doesn't make that much odds anyway. Because I mean, that back four seems to be changing quite a bit at the moment anyway. So I don't think it's down to a lack of communication while we're doing things wrong. I think it's more individual errors, and he can't prevent that from defenders making defensive errors. So no, like I said, I think we've got a good goalkeeper in, which was important. It's in front of him where I see the problem is at the moment.
Yeah, certainly so. And it's just getting that balance right, isn't it? Getting that back four settled, and getting us into a rhythm which we can all, look at and all tighten up. And I think that might come now. Now we've got that extra centre back come in. Be interesting to see how far Perch is actually away, because we seem to be getting different reports every single day. But I'm sure that's a conversation for another day. We do need to turn our attentions now to Walsall on Saturday, and of course take part in the excellent game, which is podcast predictions. Nathan Edge is the only person out of everybody that scored a point last week at home to Harrogate because you put down the goal scorer of Rhys Oates, which got you a bonus point, which keeps you just at the top of the podcast prediction table, Nath.
Didn't I put us for a defeat as well, or did I not? Did I back us in the end?
I think you backed us in the end. Yeah, you did.
Oh,
back
what
us
am I
in the
doing?
end.
What am I playing at? Yeah, no. Well, you know how it is. These prediction games, I'm always up there near the top. You know, that's how it is. But did you ask me for some Warsaw prediction? I've lost.
No, that's literally what I'm about to do now. Get with the thought train, son. Get with the thought train. The podcast predictions game, if you don't know what it is, it's the game where you guys at home can take us on every single week. Every single week on the podcast, we will give our predictions for the game. So that is, of course, the outcome of the game, the result, and the goal scorers for bonus points. The points couldn't be more simple, although I'm sure the way I explain them will make them complicated. If you get the outcome absolutely spot on, so say, for example, that Nathan says that we're going to win 1-0 on Saturday at Walsall, and we do win 1-0 on Saturday at Walsall, he will get 3 whole points. If he then correctly predicts that Nathan Bishop will score a goal, doesn't matter how, he might come up for a corner or a long goal kick, and Nathan Bishop does score a goal, he will get an extra point for getting the goal scorer right. If, however, we win 2-1 and Nathan Bishop scores, Nathan Edge, that is, will get 1 point for getting the outcome right because we've won the game, and an extra bonus point for getting one of the goal scorers right. I think that's as clear as I can make it, Clive, right? Even, you've understood the rules now, yeah?
I've never understood the rules from the start, so it helps actually not to understand from my point of view.
Basically, just give it a go.
I love how you made it even more complicated by adding another Nathan in there just to make sure. You could have made it any harder, really.
I know. Annoying. Right. Sticking on the Nathan theme then. Go on. Give me your prediction for Saturday.
I'm going to go for... we're going to bounce back. We're going to get a clean sheet, 2-0 win.
And your goal scorers, please.
Rhys Oates, 2 games in a row. And go on, my son's called Oliver, so Oliver Hawkins.
Oh, you're going to go for Ollie Hawkins. You're going down the name theme. I mean, your son also should have a middle name of Stephen, so you could have put Stephen McLaughlin in there.
Man of the match, Stephen McLaughlin.
Shocking. Clive, what about yourself? What are you going to go with?
Can I ask a question first? Is Danny fit? Is Danny fit to play?
Danny
Johnson.
Danny Johnson. He was fit. He was fit anyway. I just think he was just dropped for the formation change.
He's done nothing. Oh, sorry, Karen.
I don't know whether to put him on my list to score. Anyway, bounce back ability agreed. 3-0 win.
Oh, big win.
And I'm going to go for Hawkins, Oates, Lapsley.
Oh, okay. See, now I completely agree with the bounce back ability, but I'm doubting our ability to keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go for... I think we're going to score 3, but I think it's going to be 3-1. I think we're going to be 1-0 down at half-time. You don't get any bonus points for that, by the way. But I think it's the bounce-back ability. Clough's going to come in. He's going to kick off Stephen Quinn style, start kicking everybody, and then we're going to come out. And in front of the Stags fans, we're going to score 3 goals. And I think those people who are going to score those 3 goals are Tyrese Sinclair, because I think he's going to start. I think... that now that Rhys Oates has got off the score sheet, I agree with you two. I think he will score. And I will go with, just to sort of, I'm going to go with him again. Prove the doubt was wrong from Saturday. I'm going to go with Richard Nartley as well to get a goal from a set piece, because Clough has said that we do well with the set pieces. Am I being overly ambitious, Nate? What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much.
You think I'm being overly ambitious? I need to maybe... Where am I being overly ambitious with? Am I saying that it's over ambitious for a defender to score, or that we're not going to concede and go not going to keep clean sheet?
I think you're being probably more sensible than we are, actually. I've realised now I've gone for the clean sheet, but forgetting that we're also missing Quinn to keep
and Clark
together.
Yeah,
I'm not a massive fan of Clark, but that's a kind of discussion for another day. But yeah, I forgot that we're going to be a little bit more weaker in midfield, so I'm regretting my decision already. But maybe you'll be more right than us. Time will tell.
I am never right on these things. By the way, if you want to travel away on Saturday, then of course you can do so on that. The SSA taking a coach to Warsaw, departing the One Call Stadium at 11 a.m. £10 for all SSA members, £15 for non-members. All you need to do to book your seats is call 07967 689 597. That's 07967 689 597 to book your seats and travel away with the SSA to Warsaw on Saturday, the Bank Stadium. It looks like, Clive, it will be a nice busy afternoon. It looks like there'll be plenty of Stags fans going to cheer Nigel Clough and the boys on.
Yes, I think so. I think it's almost a local derby, Warsaw, isn't it? In the absence of Notts and Chesterfield and Grimsby and and Lincoln and all the other ones we used to have. So we've got Warsaw, Port Vale and Scunthorpe as our local teams now. There'll be a good following, and we did well there last year and the year before, so I'm looking forward to it. By the way, can I just say that when we next do a Sunday sermon thing, we really ought to have Nathan Bishop on there, didn't we? Because we've got a priest, and a bishop would be outranking you, wouldn't it?
Maybe our Nathan can wear a nice hat.
And I'll come as a nun.
You've never been a nun in your life, mate. Never been a nun in your life.
I mean, this Sunday I'm going to be by a pool in Marbella, so could be sat there in my speedos.
Nathan, shut up.
Yeah, and also this Sunday I'll be on a train to London. In fact, by the time we do the Sunday sermon, I'll be in a comedy club. Sadly, not performing on stage, although my excellent jokes I'm sure would go down an absolute storm. But
the comedy show could be on the Saturday. Who knows?
Well, let's hope it's not, and that is a perfect place to end. My thanks, as always, to Nathan Edge and to Clive Parkin. We will see them both in a week's time when we reflect on that game, of course, away at Warsaw. That, though, is sadly all we've got time for today. Can Mansfield Town then get back to winning ways as they head to Warsaw on Saturday afternoon? Can they keep that elusive clean sheet and give Clive and Nathan some points in the prediction league? If you want to play along with that, by the way, check out our social medias. Just search for MTFC Matters on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll be back in a week's time as we reflect on the Warsaw game and look ahead to the fixtures forthcoming. For now, though, sorry we couldn't be with you live today, but we're still here anyway. So keep the conversation going on social media, and we will see you next time on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. This is Series 5, Episode 8. It's called Battling a Charity Shop Jigsaw. Let's hope that Nigel Clough and his team can find the missing pieces at Warsaw on Saturday. Until next time, goodbye.